Good morning. To all of you joining us here in the chapel and on YouTube, good morning. I'm Katie Norris, your worship leader for today. We're especially glad to have those of you who may be with us for the first time and hope to see you again soon. I'd like to remind you to please silence your cell phones and other devices at this time. So our speaker today is Diane Larson. She was the administrative dean for the final year of the Russell Lockwood Leadership School of the UUA's Pacific Western region. She currently serves as the worship team chair and guest speaker coordinator for the UU Church of Hillsboro, Oregon. Her career background is in communications and special events management for nonprofit organizations. She also created and led a summer day camp for girls to have adventures based on the love of reading. She is a longtime freelance editor and genealogy researcher. Eastrose Fellowship sits on the occupied territory of the Clackamas Chinook people, who were forcibly displaced from this land to the Grand Ronde Reservation in 1855. We acknowledge the sacrifices endured by the ancestors of this land, and that our presence here today is only possible because of the injustices committed against them. We recognize the inherent sovereignty of the Chinook Nation and Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, who carry on the traditions, history, and legacy held by their ancestors from time immemorial to this day. We seek meaningful relationships with these communities that foster repair. All right, so let's take a moment now and greet each other here today, both in the chapel and online. Please stand and face the cameras by the clock in the back wall and wave hello to our friends online. Next, turn to your neighbor and say hello. For our online guests, if you would like to share a joy or sorrow during that portion of the service, you can do so by entering it in the YouTube chat, and those will be shared aloud with everyone. I also encourage you to identify yourself in the chat so that we can better acknowledge your presence with us here today. Our call to worship this morning is adapted from words by Marianne Hackton Cotter. Welcome to this place of possibility. This is love's hearth, the home of hope, a refuge for minds in search of truth, unfolding, ever beautiful, ever strange. Here, compassion is our shelter, freedom our protection from the storms of bigotry and hate. In this abode, may we find comfort and courage. Here, may our sight become vision, to see the unseen, to glimpse the good that is yet to be. Let us worship together.
Our chalice lighting words this morning are by Ma Teresa Gustillo Gallardo, a UU minister in the Philippines. We are how we came, wounded from struggles, triumphant in our survival, entitled by birthright to belong to this, the only humankind there is, saying, I am included, I belong, I am here, and I will be and do, I am growth, and I am hope. The placing of candles upon a circle of evergreens is an age-old tradition. Lighting additional candles each week reminds us that life and love will never end. The first Advent candle is the candle of hope. Hope is the motivating force that moves us through times of despair. The days are getting shorter, the weather colder, and the nights longer. Hope tells us that longer days are ahead, that new life will emerge, and that we need to hold on just a little longer. With hope, we begin our journey toward the sun and the new life it brings. We light the candle of hope. Please rise as you are willing and able in body or spirit and sing number 86 in the gray hymnal, Blessed Spirit of My Life. The words will be on the screen.
Now is a time for our stories for all ages. Tara will come forward, and we ask any children present or young at heart to join us up front.
That's good. Appreciate it. Good morning. Today's story has been called a picture book memoir. Do you know what a memoir is? Anybody? No? It's a story that somebody tells about their life. So this book is a story, but it's inspired by something that really happened. The author, Yuyi Morales, and her young son, Kelly, came to the United States from Mexico in 1994. She didn't have a job or friends, and she didn't speak English. She felt like she didn't belong here. But then one day, mother and son discovered the public library, a place where they were welcome to stay as long as they liked and look at all the books they wanted. They learned English together from children's books, and years later, she wrote and illustrated this beautiful children's book, Dreamers. So here we go. I dreamed of you, then you appeared. Together we became amor, love, amor. resplendent life, you and I. One day, we bundled gifts in our backpack and crossed a bridge outstretched like the universe. And when we made it to the other side, thirsty, in awe, unable to go back, we became immigrants. Migrantes, you and I. The sky and the land welcomed us in words unlike those of our ancestors. There were so many things we didn't know. Unable to understand and afraid to speak, we made lots of mistakes. You and I became caminantes. Thousands and thousands of steps we took around this land until the day we found a place we had never seen before, suspicious, improbable, unbelievable, surprising, unimaginable. Where we didn't need to speak, we only needed to trust, and we did. Books became our language. Books became our home. Books became our lives. We learned to read, to speak, to write, and to make our voices heard. Someday we will become something we haven't even yet imagined. But right now, we are stories. We are two languages. We are lucha. We are resilience. We are hope. We are dreamers, soñadores of the world. We are love, amor, love. This story shows us the power of welcome and belonging. When we open our doors and hearts to others, we never know what beautiful gifts they might share with the world. And now it's time for us to say goodbye to the adults and head on to Ari. If the adults along the center aisle will form a bridge, we'll sing the children out.
All right, my script doesn't give me details, so I'm going to wing it. We're going to do a silent meditation. So please plant your feet firmly on the ground and sit up straight. Open yourself up, put your arms on your knee, your hands on your knees with your palms up, and just let out a big breath. And imagine a string is pulling you up from the top of your head and going down. There's energy coming down through your spine into the earth below, and your feet are grounding you. And you can find yourself breathing slowly in and out. You can count your breath if you choose. Breathe in through your nose for 4, and exhale through your mouth for 4. And just sit and breathe for a while. And as you do so, feel the energy coming through you from your top of your head down through your feet. And let it ground you. You take a few more breaths and start to open your eyes and come out of your relaxed pose. And then with your eyes open now, we're going to sing 123 in the gray hymnal, Spirit of Life, and please stay seated for this.
Our reflection this morning is excerpted from Seeking Mercy, Seeking Home by UU minister Erica A. Hewitt. For many reasons, people depart. They leave home, or the places given to them in place of home that might have been lost to war, and seek refuge from 1,000 dangers and uncertainties. For many reasons, many of them inconceivable to us who live in relative peace and prosperity, people can't stay where they are in the places they know. So for themselves and for their children, they trade the hell they know for the unknown and the foreign. For so many reasons, unimaginable to me and maybe to you too, people give up their sense of belonging. They surrender the climate and food and sounds and smells that their bodies have always known for the new, the unfamiliar, the harsh, and unlearnable. What deep respect these refugees, asylees, and immigrants deserve for their courage, for their capacity to keep moving forward toward hope. Some members of our human family are throwing their arms wide to welcome those seeking mercy and seeking home. Others are nearly taking up arms to drive them away. I've had to remind myself that to adjudicate and assess which refugees are deserving of mercy and which ones aren't is to exhibit an arrogance so dehumanizing that it borders on dangerous. When human suffering comes spilling over our borders, there is no clear division between them and us. We've lost a bit of our soul. That's what fear does. Fear is a voice that says, nothing matters more than self-preservation and self-importance. Fear drains the antifreeze out of your heart so your compassion center runs cold. It cuts off the feeding tubes that keep our souls supple and our morality intact. And fear, I think, is what's at the heart of the stingy fool's game of deciding which immigrants are deserving of asylum. Fear says, from my comfortable position of privilege, I will decide whose hell is raw and terrifying enough to merit compassion. What would it be like, I wonder, to choose another path? How much would it cost us to invoke the principles of our faith and the beating heart of our ethical lives by saying, we're a single, interconnected human family. We make one another stronger and braver by sharing what we have. All people have the same worth and the same inherent dignity, but no human being is illegal. Some of you undoubtedly and admirably are wondering what you can do. I hope you're hearing is that doing something starts small. You're doing something when you allow your heart to tear over the scope of human suffering. You're doing something when you step beyond your experience to acknowledge that we cannot know, and God willing, will never know, what it's like to make harrowing decisions. You're doing something when you interrupt a conversation to say, no human being is illegal. It's not kind or civil to talk about people that way. And you're doing enough when you use the language of reverence and interdependence to describe the global community. For so many reasons, people depart. They leave home, or the place that was given to them, in place of a homeland that might have been lost to war, and seek refuge from 1,000 dangers and uncertainties. In the summer of 1880, my great-grandmother, Anna Clay's daughter, emigrated from Sweden. She traveled with a small family from her hometown, but they went their separate ways once they reached Chicago. However, she was not alone culturally. At the turn of the 20th century, only one city, Stockholm, had a bigger Swedish population than Chicago. Anna married my great-grandfather Larson there, and the future must have seemed promising. Yet by the time her two sons were ages 4 and 5, they had been placed in the Minnesota State Orphanage. Within 3 years, they both were contracted out as indentured servants to different families in separate counties. Her dream of a better life in America seemed shattered. What on earth had happened? As best we can tell, she suffered from postpartum depression or possibly psychosis after the birth of each of her sons, and ended up being committed to the state insane asylum. For a few years, her husband tried to take care of the boys. Apparently, so did her brother. They couldn't manage. We have a copy of the letter that the boys' father wrote to the orphanage less than a year later, after the boys' maternal aunt had come from Sweden. The boys have got an auntie here they would like to get them to care for. Write us at once. But the letter was written on the same day that the youngest boy's indenture contract was signed. My brother thinks that the attitude of the state orphanage towards the boy's father was, "You had your chance, there's no going back, and we will not unduly disrupt their new lives now." Apparently, the two boys never knew, even as adults, that their family had tried to get them back. What must those early experiences have done to the boys' sense of belonging, of finding a place where they felt at home? They might even have arrived at the orphanage speaking only Swedish, making their situation even harder. They must have felt utterly displaced. Playwright Yusuf El-Gundi, an Egyptian-American, talked about the sense of displacement that new immigrants feel. Quote, "Uprooting yourself and trekking to a new land is psychologically and physically an arduous undertaking. You hopefully gain much in doing so, but there is also much loss as well. Uprooting means leaving behind that which has nurtured you, family, friends, culture, religion, smells, sounds, the familiar, and entering a world where you might not know the language or the nuances of day-to-day interaction, nor understand the mainstream culture that's mainstream because it embodies the values and norms that give comfort to the populace, but not yet to you because it's all so unfamiliar." Director Jane Unger wrote about one of El-Guindi's plays. The play opens a door into the world of the outsider, newcomers to this country whose obstacles are not as obvious as a border crossing. Another emigrant from Africa, Cameroon native Mbolo Mbue, wrote a novel, Behold the Dreamers, that was named in Oprah's book club selection. She said in an interview with Oprah Winfrey, "It's so hard to be a stranger in a strange land. I don't think most people understand how difficult it is to leave behind what you know and come to a country where everything about you is considered different." Ann Fadiman wrote about the perils of being different in her book, The Spirit Catches You and You Fall Down. The title refers to how the Hmong people of the mountains of Southeast Asia describe epilepsy as a spiritual gift of a shaman. American doctors, in contrast, view epilepsy as a disease. When a Hmong child in California was diagnosed with severe epilepsy, the two cultures collided in a lack of understanding, and the result was tragic. It's interesting to note that the ways of mountain people are, as author Sharon McCrum put it, always thought of by flatlanders as strange and backward. In Vietnam, it's the Hmong who are thought a bit peculiar by their plains-dwelling countrymen. There's a word for hillbilly in the language of every country with highlands. Mountain people would rather live poor and free in the beauty of mountains than grow prosperous in the fertile lowlands or the sprawling cities. Here in the US, it's the Scots-Irish people of Appalachia, yes, I learned that it's pronounced Appalachia, who are called hillbillies, and they clash culturally with many other Americans. In an article for Discover magazine called The Scots-Irish as Indigenous People, traveling journalist Razid Khan wrote, "During my traveling across America, the Scots-Irish have consistently blown my mind as far and away the most persistent and unchanging regional subculture in the country. Their family structures, religion and politics, and social lives all remain unchanged compared to the wholesale abandonment of tradition that's occurred nearly everywhere else. Characteristics of the Appalachian culture are social isolation, deep anger, resentment and pessimism, mistrust of urban life and of the press and of government. Even when Appalachian families move away from Appalachia, they tend to take those cultural traits unchanged with them. They value loyalty to community more than upward mobility. The people who do leave report feeling like an outsider wherever else they go, but also when they return to their hometowns." Reading Razid Khan's article had a surprisingly personal impact on me. Let me explain. My first husband was Boston Irish Catholic. Within that community, I was a fish out of water, a Scandinavian Lutheran from San Diego. More than once I was asked, "Larson, what kind of a name is that?" But at least from the start, I could name the cultural differences between my husband and me. In contrast, when I met my second husband years later, I never thought about his being from a particular subculture. He simply seemed to be an engineer and backpacker whose church was the wilderness. Both of us had lived in several states and had ended up in the Pacific Northwest. But I always felt awkward or even strained trying to talk with his parents, which is not like me. Then I read Razid Khan's article and everything became clear. My husband's parents' roots were in Appalachia, and they typically lived in remote places. In fact, their long-term retirement home was in the mountains, 8 miles along a gravel road from their mailbox. 8 miles. To them, I was an inexplicable urban outsider and thus not really to be trusted. But thanks to Razid Khan, I could at least name the cultural differences between my in-laws and me. What's interesting is that my gut response about this discovery was to hold back, to keep it to myself, not to talk about it. But then I realized that I was falling prey to mistrust myself, mistrust that I'd be judged for having in-laws who are so decidedly not like UUs. The current cultural divide in the US has many layers, but probably the least visible is that of social class. Novelist Dan Shawn discussed the concept of class in an interview. Class means many different things besides income. It's an attitude, too. There are people who are classy. There's a way of moving through the world with confidence and unknowing entitlement. There are people who come from good families, whatever their finances say. Class is an invisible tattoo that marks your spirit, and I thought it would eventually go away, but now that I'm in my 50s, I'm starting to think it won't. He continues, "People who are born comfortable are lucky, but they don't know it. I have lived among them for more than half my life, and my observation is that there is always a part of them that feels like they deserved it. They don't even realize how deeply the idea of meritocracy is built into their worldview. Even if they would never admit it, they secretly feel that they earned their advantages somehow. Poor people were not as smart, not as sensible, not as well-bred, if they just tried a little harder. Well, I did try harder. I threw away everyone I grew up with gladly. I left for college and never went back, and I pretended to be my own creation, no nature or nurture either, just a self-invented person. See? I'm just like you, readers of this interview. My life is so different from some of my cousins' lives that we may as well live in different universes, but I achieved that by chopping off big parts of myself. I think those severed limbs are the ghosts that haunt my writing. They are parts of myself that I have murdered, but they won't stay buried. Dan Sean's point about people who are born comfortable is underscored for me every summer during heat waves, when I can't ignore the fact that money buys comfort and convenience, as well as choices and peace of mind. 30% of houses and apartments in the Portland area do not have air conditioning. That means not only, at best, discomfort, but also having to structure all daily activities around the heat. Effectively, the Portland area has been divided into two classes, those with and those without. Trevor Noah knows what it's like to do without, having grown up poor in South Africa. In his memoir, the successful comedian describes himself as an outsider. He is the son of a black South African mother and a white Swiss father. But during the apartheid era in South Africa, sexual relationships between blacks and whites were illegal. So Noah was literally born a crime, the title he gave his book. As Bill Gates wrote in a review of the book, I quickly learned how Noah's outsider approach has been honed over a lifetime. Again and again throughout his childhood, he discovered that language was more powerful than skin color in building connections with other people. I became a chameleon, Noah writes. My color didn't change, but I could change your perception of my color. If you spoke to me in Zulu, I replied to you in Zulu. If you spoke to me in Tswana, I replied to you in Tswana. Maybe I didn't look like you, but if I spoke like you, I was you. Notice that Trevor Noah talks about the importance of language in reinforcing feelings of being an insider. While I was in college, I did an independent research project for 6 months in Denmark. All young Danes speak English fluently, but of course in groups, they spoke Danish. Until I learned enough Danish to follow conversations, I felt like an outsider looking in from the edges. I felt stupid, too. I didn't want to draw attention to how little I knew. I wouldn't even ask for food to be passed at the table. I just ate whatever was within reach. I ate a lot of potatoes. I hated feeling like a foreigner. Even though I was in a foreign country, I wanted to fit in. So it must be worse to feel like a stranger in your own country. Historically, the U.S. has a record of shoving certain groups of people to the margins. I vividly remember when I was in high school and I learned about the Indian Removal Act. As a Washington Post article described it, Native American tribes were forced to relocate to Oklahoma and give their land to white Southerners. That forced migration during Andrew Jackson's presidency is known as the Trail of Tears. And yet Andrew Jackson was honored by being featured on our $20 bill. Some groups have migrated within the U.S. because they have been made to feel like outsiders, even in places where their families have lived for generations. In The Warmth of Other Suns, Isabel Wilkerson tells the little-known story of the great migration of 6 million African Americans from the South to the Northeast, Midwest, and West Coast in search of a better life. The actions of the people in this book were both universal and distinctly American. Excuse me, this is a quote. The actions of the people in this book were both universal and distinctly American. Their migration was a response to an economic and social structure not of their making. They did what humans have done for centuries when life became untenable, what the Pilgrims did under the tyranny of British rule, what the Irish did when there was nothing to eat, what the European Jews did during the spread of Nazism. They did what human beings looking for freedom throughout history have often done. They left. We West Coasters, by definition, are people who have left, have moved away from another part of the country or the world, or our recent ancestors have. How many of you have parents who were born in Oregon? 2 out of all of us. It's interesting to think about the idea of leaving. People can leave an actual place, or they can leave a state of mind. Our Unitarian and Universalist ancestors left creeds they no longer believed. They were called dissenters and nonconformists. They made a choice, and they were damned as heretics. They became outsiders. You know what it's like to be religious outsiders. But that is a new feeling for some religious people in the U.S. who have come to question their churches in these hateful, divisive times. John Pavlovitz, a liberal former Christian minister who writes a blog called Stuff That Needs to Be Said, wrote this about becoming an outsider. It's difficult to admit the sense of homelessness I felt regarding the faith of my childhood and the devastating loss that comes with it. It hasn't happened in a loud, cataclysmic instant, but in a million small revelations, nagging questions, and uneasy feelings that all finally became too much to ignore. Slowly, but most certainly, I found myself outside. That's not to say I don't still have a glowing ember of belief still tucked away somewhere in the center of my chest. That's the problem. I do. It's just that now I'm trying to figure out how to nurture it outside the religion of my younger days. I'm wondering if I will ever have the sense of belonging or shared purpose I had there. Yet until recently, conservative Protestants also could think of themselves as outsiders. One young man wrote of going to live with his father's family, where he became an evangelical Christian and his church believed in creationism. He recalled, "As a young teenager thinking seriously for the first time about what I believed and why I believed it, I had an acute sense that the walls were closing in on real Christians. For the first time in my life, I felt like a persecuted minority." When so many people with so many different beliefs feel like outsiders, what does that say about us as a nation? What can be done to help more people feel like insiders? As a member of my church said in a sermon, deep problems call for spiritual responses. Perhaps we UUs in our position as both outsiders and as a mostly privileged elite are uniquely situated to lead the way. After all, we are a faith tradition that welcomes a wide range of beliefs. Yet we come together as a community to support one another in our individual journeys. We are a unique blend of valuing both the individual and the community. Perhaps we can view these political times as an opportunity or even a sacred responsibility. The Unitarian Universalist Association already has a welcoming congregations program. Let's examine what we can try to do as UUs to foster a sense of belonging. We can try to recognize that conflict is a part of life. Our first principle calls upon us to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and our second principle calls for justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. So we can try to give each person a voice at the table. We can try to listen. We can try to learn. We can try to communicate honestly. We can expect civility and respect in our interactions. We can try to respect different opinions. My own congregation's vision statement pledges that we will reach out to the world. How? How are we to know what to do, how to act, and what to say? We can follow the 5 A's. Become aware, ask, pay attention, acknowledge, and take action. We can become aware of our own unspoken attitudes towards immigrants and towards people outside our own social circles. How do we perceive them? How do we treat them? Sometime take a look at the YouTube video, "Where are you from?" That question sounds friendly. I was just wondering, but the underlying message is, you look different from me, or you sound different from me, and therefore you don't belong here. The effect is of being othered. On the other hand, if someone mentions that he or she is an immigrant, we can ask about their lives and how they feel and truly listen to the response. At an event in September at Portland Center Stage called the Immigrant Story Live, one of my church members, Bernal Cruz, told his story of escaping war-torn Guatemala at age 13 with his family. As Bob Hicks wrote in a review, "Before they fled, Bernal's best friend knocked on their door to say farewell. 'I brought you my marbles,' Bernal remembers his friend saying, and added they were his most precious possession. Young Bernal wrapped the marbles tightly in a sock and took them with him as he headed into the unknown. everything else, including my childhood, Bernal said, I left behind. Bob Hicks continued, the telling of these tales through the immigration story is important for immigrants and the general population alike, bringing to the surface the realities of a nation that is blessed with a cultural blending without always noticing it, yet building at its best a rich vibrancy from its many cultural strands. And the telling of these diverse stories is especially critical now, as the Trump administration has declared unofficial yet very real war on immigrants, and especially on non-white immigrants from non-European nations. ICE officers are breaking up families, grabbing immigrants, and sometimes U.S. citizens off the streets, hauling them off to detention sites. Some detainees are deported without cause to the nations they fled and where they might face imprisonment or death. Some are sent to be imprisoned in countries they've never been to. A nation in which everyone except its original inhabitants has immigrant roots, and even those original peoples came many centuries ago from somewhere else, is in danger of forgetting or denying who and what it is. End quote. In addition to becoming aware of our unspoken attitudes and asking to hear other people's stories, we can pay attention to what makes individual people we likely all know, feel pushed to the margins. Divorce, death of a partner, coming out as gay, becoming transgender, unemployment, no health insurance, no rent control, having a car declared totaled after even a minor accident. We can acknowledge how the conditions of our lives affect not only our sense of security, but our sense of fitting in. We can explore how to take action, to advocate for policy changes, and to strengthen community support, always remembering to follow the lead of affected people about what is most useful. Taken together, those 5 A's can help create a sense of belonging. Here are further thoughts from John Pavlovitz. Maybe organized Christianity will never be home for me again. Given what it looks like right now, I'm more and more okay with that. It could be that from now on, I am destined to be a sojourner who travels lightly and moves often. Maybe that's how this was always supposed to be anyway. Maybe that's the point. This is all far too big for a building. If you're feeling displaced from the religion of your past, that may be a good thing. If it feels like the church is pushing you outside, go there. What feels like homelessness might actually be freedom. Maybe that wide, expansive space that cannot be contained or fenced in is home. Another point to consider is that feeling like an outsider can give us empathy. As playwright Yusuf El-Gindi writes, at the end of the day, my feeling is that the immigrant state of mind can be glimpsed by anyone who feels displaced, foreign, or at odds with, and trying to fit into new surroundings, which basically covers everyone. Who doesn't at times feel slightly alien and separate from their environment and the people who surround them? When we open our mouths and try to communicate with someone, we are making an immigrant journey of sorts from our own familiar view of the world to that stranger's point of view. When it comes to human relations, it's all terra incognita, with unexpected borders and much traveling to try to comprehend each other better. No one has better depicted the feeling of being at odds and of not fitting in than S.E. Hinton. In 1967, at age 15, she wrote the novel The Outsiders. Her characters are disaffected, underclass teens labeled greasers who are thrust into an us versus them battle with a gang of rich bullies. The greasers band together in loyalty, friendship, and love, creating a sense of belonging. Actor Rob Lowe, who played a greaser in the movie version, said that teenage Susie Hinton centered her novel on a family that didn't fit any conventional definition. She was one of the original voices saying, "Your family is what you make it." S.E. Hinton knew, even as a teen, about the power of telling our stories, knowing that we are being heard. As for my own family's story, I like to think that my great-grandmother would have found solace in knowing that future generations would fare better than hers did. Her 2 sons grew up to settle in the Midwest, and they had families of their own. Her grandson, my father, was the first in the family to go to college, and her great-grandson, my brother, earned a PhD. Her dream of a better life in America, at least for her family, if not for herself, was ultimately realized in greater ways than she could have envisioned, and that would have given her great joy. Please rise as you are willing and able in body or spirit and sing number 95 in the gray hymnal, There is More Love Somewhere. The words will be on the screen.
We share half of the money collected each week with a local organization doing good works in the community. Snowcap Community Charities is our Sharing the Bounty partner from September through February. Eastrose has a long relationship with Snowcap. We are one of 25 local churches that founded Snowcap in 1967 to address the needs of East Multnomah County residents. Snowcap helps with food, clothing, personal care items, and needs for infants. We look to deepen our partnership with Snowcap over the next months. If you're attending online, you may donate by visiting our website and clicking the donate button, or you may scan the QR code on the screen. If you are here for the first time, we invite you to let the basket pass and truly be our guest. The gifts to the congregation will now be most gratefully received, and I need people to help me with the baskets. All right, please remain seated and sing our song of gratitude, number 1010 in the Teal Hymnal. We give thanks. The words will be on the screen.
We extinguish our chalice this morning with these words, adapted from a reading by UU minister Maureen Kaloran. My people have a heritage of stubborn persistence, a refusal to abandon the necessity of dreams. To do other than persist would be to dishonor those who have gone before. Too many things matter for me to give up. Life is too precious for me to say die. If desperate action is likely to be required, then I must gird myself with stories of strength. Although I can barely see the further shore, I must hold fast to the conviction that we will get there, that love will not only survive, but thrive. Others have done it, so can I. May I be inspired to draw strength from all that has gone before, so that I may have courage to engage the struggles yet to come. Let us carry these thoughts with us into the coming week.
Thank you, Micah. We're going to do some announcements. But first, I'd like to thank everyone who contributed today. Micah, good job. Ayla. We have two greeters, Tim and Karen. Tim and Karen, hi. And then our wonderful speaker, Diane. And did I say Ayla? Anyway, so thanks to everyone. We have, the announcements are in petals. I have one announcement, which is self-proclaimed as strange, from Linda. So someone called Linda to sign up for a friendship dinner on December 13th and left a message on the recorder, but the number that she left didn't work. And she's getting this phone number is no longer in service. So she couldn't understand the first name, but think her last name is right. I don't know. Anyway, if she's here today, if you were here today, Ms. Wright, you could speak to Linda, who's right here. I don't know if, oh yeah, and then Georgianne has an announcement.
I think this is fitting with
Microphone.
everybody on YouTube can hear you. Thank you. I think this is fitting with the theme today. I'm wearing a perk bracelet. It's a bracelet that gives the telephone number to an organization that will send out people to watch and get information in regards to those immigrants or those who are here that are being taken by ICE. It is a group of volunteers, and Indivisible is making them. I'm making them. I can teach you how to make them, and I'd love to do that. So see me afterwards if you're interested.
All right, our closing words. Our closing is adapted from words by Leslie Takahashi. Life tells its truth in many hues. Let us see the fractions, the spectrum, the margins. Let us open our hearts to the complexity of our worlds. Let us make our lives sanctuaries to nurture our many identities. The day is coming when all will know that the rainbow world is more gorgeous than monochrome, that a river of identities can ebb and flow over the static, stubborn rocks in its course, that the margins hold the center. The service has ended. It's now time for social time, conversation, coffee in the back. Go in peace. I don't have it. I don't have. Was there a slide for it?